everyone. Welcome to the sunny side of San Diego with Vinnie, my co-host over here.
Carini on a sunny day. Yeah, even in winter, it's sunny here in San Diego.
All right. So this topic, we've talked about it before a couple times. And that's something that pushes us is the idea of success, of what do we define as success. And why don't you take it away, Michael?
I think success means different things to different people, and even different things to those people at different times in their life. And I know that what I considered success to be in my 20s was different from what I considered success to be at 30 and at 36. And so it's interesting the gamut or the spectrum that the idea of success runs and how it shifts. And for so long for me, I thought that it was status and money and all these egocentric things. And over time, it's been more the idea of peace of mind and finding myself and finding peace with myself, which is definitely a battle and probably even harder to find than money or status, because those things, you can lie, you can cheat, you can steal, you can grasp those things, but they're fleeting. They don't really last. And I think that sometimes people shift their perspective because they learn that those things don't last, but some people hold on to those things forever because it is so hard to let go of the ego. So I guess at this point for me, the idea of success is letting go of that ego and finding that peace. And it's still a rough and tumble journey for me, but it's just very interesting how it shifts and how we can use a word like success, and we do have certain correlations and associations that are somewhat universal or at least cultural, but it can also mean very different things to different people.
Yeah, and we've talked about it in one of the previous episodes where, when you start out, you're looking for monetary success, and I think as later on in life, you start looking at the idea of, well, how can this money help me more appreciate my life a little more? And I think that's something that you slowly start understanding as you age. Some people learn it at a younger age. Some people learn it at an older age. Some people never learn it at all. They just look at, okay, how much money do I have in my pocketbook? And it becomes that thing where you're adapting, you're growing, you're changing to understand. I think the difference of it. One thing that I think with the idea of success is we start having that internal struggle. Can you basically appreciate your own success, or do you need basically someone else to tell you succeeded? And I think that's different from person to person.
It definitely is. And I also think that the idea of where you come from shapes your idea of success, going back to the idea of things being cultural or socioeconomical. So if you come from a place where you have nothing, your idea of success is maybe a few rungs above that. Whereas if you're born into a life where you have everything taken care of and you never have to work for anything, your idea of success is going to be askew from what it would be for that other person. And I think it does come down to also what you were just saying of, do you find success from within, or does it have to be something that's validated by an external source? And I think that goes back to the ego. And then I think we also have to raise the question of the idea of people having fear of failure, but also fear of success. And I think that a lot of times people that have had struggle or trauma will oftentimes have this legitimate fear of being successful because it falls out of the normality or the patterns that they're used to of being in this state of struggle.
Yeah, and I think there's a financial thermostat, right? The idea is that we feel like we know what we're worth. We feel like we know what we need, right? That's why you see people that get a new job or get a raise in their job, and even though they got more money in their pocket, they're looking at, oh, where's my money going? They're not saving it. They're not putting it anywhere else. They're living kind of paycheck to paycheck, even if they're making more money than they did a week ago, right? Or a month ago, or 2 years ago, right? And so understanding what your worth is and building towards that. Because I truthfully believe that in our head, we know how much we're worth. And sometimes we have to work through it and understand our true value. Because sometimes it takes a little bit longer for us to get there.
There's something interesting about what you said, though, because I want to look at it from a different perspective, too. The idea of, okay, so you get paid a certain amount of money, and maybe you do base your feeling of success or your worth based on validation from your job. And so say you do get a raise, you get a dollar raise. And for a lot of places, a dollar raise is pretty substantial. So you think, wow, I got this dollar raise. You're super excited about it. But what does that dollar raise actually mean? So say you work full time, you do the math, dollar comes out to maybe a little over $2,000 a year working a full time job. So $2 is what had you go from feeling a certain way to feeling a different type of way. And yes, I mean, $2,000 is wonderful. It's great. But in the grander scheme of things, that $2,000, it can buy you this, it can buy you that. But is it really worth the price or the jump in happiness? And I don't mean that to diminish it, but in terms of, I think that we need to see the bigger picture. And that's why I think that people do get so focused on the ego or the numbers. Whereas in the grand scheme of things, over the course of your life, over the course of the value of a life, which is priceless, $2,000 isn't that much. So I'm saying it's best not to correlate it to those things, but sometimes we don't learn that until later in life through time and experience.
Well, I guess it's the way you look at things, right? Everything's about, it's not about what it is, but how you look at things, right? That's the way I look at life, right? So if I was a financial advisor, right, and I'm not a financial advisor, I would go, well, $2,000 on a yearly basis, exponentially over time, is going to get you X amount of dollars towards your retirement, right? And so you're like, okay, well, if I can live on what I'm getting, but that extra raise I got, I'm gonna start putting that away for a rainy day, right? When I retire, then it's gonna be a lot more than it is today. So I think it's really on what you're doing with the money and where your funds are going. Because there's people that, I mean, and I sometimes I'll do it where like I see something and I'll buy like that. I mean, thing at the checkout, right? That I really don't need, but it's a shiny object that I'm gonna buy, right? And if I didn't buy that, that's an extra couple of dollars in my pocket, right? And those things add up over time. Same thing about going and getting coffee, like a Starbucks, right? It's a cost that if you, let's say you're paying $5 for a drink, right? And let's say you do it 10 times a month, right? That's $50 right there. Right, that adds up over time, over the year, meaning $600. I mean, if you're able to penny pinch on some things, you're going to get that return that you're kind of hoping for, get that raise you're getting to. And now there's other people that are listening right now, they're living paycheck to paycheck and they need every dollar because there's no other way of surviving. They're maximizing everything when they're going to the store, they're cutting coupons because they're trying to survive. And I mean, that's a totally different topic. I mean, that's a tough way to live. And I mean, hopefully there is a better way, and hopefully one day there will be a better way.
Yeah, and when there's a lot of truth, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I remember when I got my first job and was busting my butt, having to walk 45 minutes to work, 45 minutes back to make $4 and some odd cents an hour, doing backbreaking work as a 13, 14-year-old. And then I remember working at a grocery store making minimum wage at the time, $7, $8 an hour, and thinking, wow, if I made $9 an hour, I could do so much. And what does that equate to now? And so I think that when you come from that place that you don't have a lot, that you have that perspective. But then I've been on the flip side where I've had times that I've done rather well, and it was through putting in the time and the effort. But what that really opened my eyes up to was that it's not really about the money. It's okay to use those as benchmarks and to get excited about that, to take the little and look at little steps. But what I really learned was, it wasn't about money. What I really wanted was my fun. And so past couple of years when I ditched my job, it was absolutely terrifying to think of going from having a stable source of income to not having a stable source of income. But when I shifted into doing what I actually wanted to do, what I love, what I'm passionate about, I thought, you know what? This is what real success is. This is what life is about. It's not about going to that job and punching a clock and doing something not meant for me. And the universe kind of lined things up, but there was a lot of work and a lot of struggle that went into it. But it was funny how my perception of success changed. And going back to what you were saying about the saving and putting things aside, that is definitely true. And so what I had to do to move into the place that I thought was true success was I had to minimize the overhead. I had to live a simpler life, but I had to decide that doing what I wanted, doing what I was put here to do was more important than making extra money to live a comfortable life. And so I think that comfort versus success can be two very different things.
Yeah, I think once we get past our bare minimum, right, then we start. It makes a bigger factor of appreciating the money you're getting and really dividing success of comfort consists of success as just filling a hole, right? So there's there's that bare minimum that we all have to make, right? And if you can reach that bare minimum, you're not going to live paycheck to paycheck. You're going to basically find a way to enjoy it. Yet as you start getting to making more and more money, right, above that, that's where you can fill in, okay, I'm just going to get, instead of this car, I'm going to get even a shinier car. Instead of this house, I'm going to get an even bigger house. Instead of this way of traveling, I'm going to get this other way of traveling. So I think it's finding that bare minimum and getting past that point right there, and then really dividing the difference between success and dividing how you want to appreciate the money you're making. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think the other thing is that culture and society try to tell us what success is. So in different countries, they say that, hey, success is owning this many cows, or success is being married and having this many kids. And here, success is having this many cars and this many square feet of property and this many pairs of shoes. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes I think that we're being lied to. Success can mean different things to different people. And if that's your idea of success, so be it. But it definitely isn't mine, and it hasn't been for a long time. But part of what changed my mind was surrounding myself with people that I respected and seeing what they considered success to be. Some of my mentors, and I guess this is a time to honor my late mentor, Roland Reese, who passed away in December. But he showed me what it meant to be an artist, or it could mean to be an artist. He opened up the doors of possibility. And I remember being an undergraduate and thinking, hey, I'm going to be a graphic design major because practical. I can get a job that makes X amount of dollars, because I remember being in my graphic design class and at the time learning what they were getting paid to do certain types of work. And at the time, I remember specifically being in a class and learning about somebody that was making $120 something an hour, getting picked up in a limo to do what is now considered to be basic graphics work in a newsroom. And so I thought, wow, I can't even imagine that much money having that type of lifestyle. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I started to go down that path. Then I took my first painting course with one of my mentors, Jane Brucker, and then she turned me on to her mentor, Roland Reese. And I fell in love with that. It was about passion. And so when I fell into that place, when my eyes were opened up to that, I realized that for me, success meant something different than it might mean to somebody else. And it meant that I might have to do some of the difficult things, some of the things that sucked. I might have to struggle. But again, for yourself and for me, people that are very, very into fitness and working out, oftentimes success is in the struggle, and struggle is in the success. And so, again, some people think that success is avoiding pain, avoiding hurt, when oftentimes it's not. It's diving into that to get to what you truly want, but maybe you have convinced yourself that you don't want because you don't want to put in the work.
There was a thing that Arnold Schwarzenegger says in one of his motivational pieces, but he was talking about the idea when he's working out, and he's like, you know what? I'm like an artist when I'm shaping my body. And he goes, people would ask me why I have this big smile on my face. And it was because I knew what I was doing. I knew that these activities I was doing was going to help me shape basically the piece that I was kind of looking to do on my body. And it's kind of an interesting way of doing it. I mean, he's in essence saying that enjoy what you're doing, appreciate what you're doing, have happiness in what you're doing, because it can be hard. It can be difficult sometimes.
Right? Yeah, I remember that. I listen to that a lot too. And he says, I used to love doing one more rep. And he loved the idea of doing the things that other people didn't want to do, the things that other people said, oh, it hurts, I want to quit. And Eric Thomas talks a lot about that. Dave Goggins talks a lot about that. His joy comes from doing one more of something than anybody else, and the idea of just being willing to go further. So finding joy in the struggle, in the pain, and that's where their success comes from, both internally and externally.
Yeah, I mean, what was the whole saying for Bruce Lee, or the quote from Bruce Lee when they asked how many push-ups he does, or he goes, I don't know, I only start counting when it starts to hurt.
Oh, I think was that Bruce Lee or was that Ollie?
I thought it was Bruce Lee. Oh, both of them probably did it, but I thought it was Bruce Lee.
Because I thought it was Ollie with the sit-ups, but I mean, same principle. Two people that were at the forefront of what they did, revolutionary, and people that. And it's interesting that we were asking about or trying to figure out which one said it, because those are people on a certain level, and we correlate that success. So I think that the idea of association and surrounding ourselves with people that are better than us, people that push us to be better, rather than surrounding ourselves with people that are on lower rungs. And that's not to say that people that are putting in the work or people that are trying are lesser people. No, that's a different thing. But people that are choosing to not work, people that are choosing to not be successful, people that are choosing to stay stagnant, and how it's better to surround yourself with people that we may see as out of our league, but are moving towards what we want. And it will force us to push ourselves to rise up. And I was thinking about that the other day in terms of the gym. Maybe I need to start spending more time with people that are significantly bigger than me, that are putting up much more weight, because maybe it'll push me to be able to start lifting those weights. Even if I'm only doing 1 rep when they're doing 8 to 10, eventually I'll get conditioned to finding that to be my baseline.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comfort level is a difficult thing for a lot of us. Once you start feeling that comfort of what you're doing, be aware, because you're not allowing yourself to grow to the next level.
I've definitely fallen into that a lot too, I think. And particularly with fitness plateaus and things like that, it's so easy to just start conditioning yourself into a different state. You start to get comfortable with something new, with a certain place that you're in. And you think, oh, I'm just going to do this for a day, or I'm just going to do this for 2 days, or, oh, it's not a big deal to do a little bit less. And in some cases, yeah, it is important to take a break, to rest. But it's amazing how, if you look at where you are at a certain time, a block from, say, even a week to a week, or a month to a month, or a year to a year, how different it can be. And so that consistency while trying to grow, something that we definitely need to take a closer look at.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening. I mean, we'd love to hear your feedback of how you define success. Please subscribe. Please share. Join us live. We do this every Wednesday morning, about 7:15. So feel free to join us and be live. Pacific time, exactly. Thank you, everyone. Talk soon.